but for me, it was. I was telling folks when I got home, hearing Harlan Stonecipher speak at my first convention 20 years ago got me the first 20 years down the road. But hearing Warren say that this past Saturday, I believe is what's going to get me the next 20 years down the road. And I am just so excited that to have alignment. And of course, we could talk about Legal Shield Cares, which was announced in Dallas. This emphasis on community outreach, on fundraising and impacting communities outside and beyond the scope of our Legal Shield and ID Shield membership. So I hope that what I have for you today is exciting, but I want you to go into this with me knowing that we are on a journey of getting better at these concepts, getting good at doing the things that matter, getting effective at giving ourselves grace and space to grow. So let's talk about personal connection. And we're going to talk about this again because I want to help you build a big team. I want you to build a massive organization, an army, coast to coast, border to border, across 2 nations. And to do that at the highest level, which is a different thing, it's going to take some bigger thinking, some broader inspiration. So let's talk about why personality types matter in our business, because we want to, first, I want you to understand yourself, then other people. I want you to be able to adopt and adapt your approach to attract the prospects you need into your business. But I want those prospects, when they join the team, to stay. We call that retention, associate retention. And the way associate retention works in our space, in direct sales, network marketing, Legal Shield especially, is by building deeper connections. You know, we used to talk about this. We'd say the leaders that built the big teams in Legal Shield, the reason one of the indicators of how big their business was because those leaders, and I'm talking about Harlan Stonecipher, I'm talking about Wilburn Smith, I'm talking about Dave Savula, I'm talking about Ken Moore, the pioneers of this company. They developed leaders, but they had personal, deep connections with those leaders. They knew the color of their living room carpet, is the way we always would say it. And we've gone through many cultural evolutions. We went through a cultural evolution where the internet became central to business, not just our business, but to business. And then we went through the COVID period where finding ways to be together without being together became central to business. And now in this time, as we move outside and hopefully have that in the rearview mirror with all sensitivity, hopefully it becomes something we only talk about in the past. How do we approach those same fundamentals of deeper connection? So I wanted to start by, and some of you, this will be review for you, but there's the personality types, and there's many different ways this is portrayed in trainings, but I'm going to give it to you the way I like it best. So we say there's 4 personality types. And this is going to be an overview first of the personality types, how they help, how knowing these and understanding these help you to communicate. They inform your leadership style. They affect relationship building. And they're called shark, dolphin, whale, and urchin. So let's start with the shark. So the idea of this personality of the shark, the traits are confident, they're ambitious, they're assertive, they are decisive, motivated, goal-driven. Now they can be aggressive, they can overlook details, and the way we communicate with these folks is to be direct and focus on the results. So sharks, what we call sharks, they're natural leaders. They're driven. They love taking charge and they enjoy challenges. They're often the ones that set ambitious goals and then are confused when others don't keep up with those same things, you know, when it doesn't align with their expectations. So again, strengths, so they're decisive. They have a strong vision. Several weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago in Evolve, we talked about recruiting professionals, recruiting up the socioeconomic ladder, recruiting people that make commitments and keep commitments, recruiting people that want to earn a 6-figure income and know that about themselves. And they're money motivated. They want those things. This is those people. This is the sharks. And I said before about this, they're decisive. They make a decision. They can grab onto a vision, 6-figure income, $1 million, goal to become a millionaire club member. They excel, by the way, at getting things done. And they're pretty good at motivating others through their determination that the thing must get done. Now, here's something else to consider, think about, is that often, I'm just going to move something here. Sorry about that. Whoever's texting me, I can't get to you. They're direct. So in communications, maybe some of us would call it blunt. So their directness can sometimes come off as aggressive. It can come off as intimidating. They, as I said, overlook details. So in their rush to achieve the big picture results, they can oftentimes miss the point. I've said in a recent meeting that sometimes, we've had in our business model, when the sharks come in, and shark is not negative, by the way. It's just none of these are negative or positive. They just are. And I'm gonna tie all this together for you if you stay with me. So one of the potential challenges of sharks is they tend to come at things with an by any means necessary approach, and that can be a positive and a negative. For example, this is a quick story, and it's in the weeds. But so today in our business model, the way we track metrics is by what we call premium, and premium is the dollar value of the memberships that are being signed up in the field. Well, several years ago, we made that switch, but prior to that, we used a model called counters, sales counters, if you will. But what a counter really represented was a customer. So instead of how much dollar value, instead of tracking the dollar value of the business being generated, we tracked customer acquisition. So in other words, instead of for executive director needing $1,400 in business in a calendar month, you needed to acquire 50 customers in a calendar month. Now, that was changed for a variety of reasons. And what I'm about to share with you is not the reason it was changed. It was changed because we wanted to make sure as we broadened our company that we were serving the customer in the best way. And so we wanted to track other goals besides the acquisition of another customer. But when we were on that counter system, some of these folks, the sharks, figured out that, well, there's a product at the time that was $9.95 a month. And that was an individual ID Shield 1 bureau monitoring program. So it didn't cover the family, it didn't cover the 3 bureaus. It was a stripped down product. But if you signed up a customer for that plan, you got a sales counter because you acquired a customer. So you acquired a customer at $9.95 a month instead of $35, $45, $55, $65. So in other words, some of these sharks figured out, well, 50 customers acquired at $9.95 will be faster and easier. So all of a sudden, we had this influx of people signing up a lot of these individual $10 ID Shield plans, and they were just moving money around. It's just a game to them. It was just points so that they could be an executive director. And that's the kind of thing that on the one hand that happens with sharks, is that they're so focused on the goal, executive director, that they miss the point of the goal, acquisition of happy customers that have the plan that is best suited to that customer. That's what the shark does. So how do you communicate? And think about this from a recruiting point of view. I'm going to teach you how to ask questions so that the people that you are prospecting will reveal themselves to you, so then you know how to communicate. For example, since they're direct, they expect you to be direct. And this is the easiest one to teach on, because this is the one, these are the people I've learned to really enjoy recruiting, are the sharks, but I've learned you got to keep your eye on them once you recruit them. So I'm direct, I'm clear, I'm confident. Like, we call that posture. Sharks appreciate straightforwardness, and they're more interested in results than small talk. They don't want any small talk. They want to know, hey, what is the 5-year game plan to earn $100,000 a year? In 5 years in, I've got $100,000 a year in residual income. We call that the 5-year game plan for group sales. So they want that. They're interested in that. They're focused on the bottom line and how this business, again, when we're recruiting them, how it can help them achieve their financial and career goals. So that's the shark. Now, I don't know when the best point in time to say this part I'm about to say, because we're going to revisit sharks and stuff here over and over again over the next few minutes. But I do want to point something out, because sometimes people ask me, well, what is the difference between Success Team and Agents of Change and Chris Corley and their groups, Empowered Entrepreneurs? And, what's the difference? Why do you guys do that? I think again, it's not a good, it's not bad, it just is what it is. I think the best way to understand that is personality types. So with Success Team, the shark is all what has always historically been the goal in recruiting. So the whole system was built to attract and to speak to and educate and train the sharks. But there's 4 personality types. Now, historically, the reason that happened was because that's the personality traits most strongly exhibited by the founder of Success Team, Mr. Mark Riches. I think you'd agree that he's a concise communicator. He's a natural leader. He's driven. He can take charge. He enjoys challenges. All that stuff I just said. Well, whoever plants the flag in the ground, it's kind of the culture is going to look a lot like that. And so that's what you get there. And then when he built early systems, even before Harvard Risk Management, which some of you know about our brokerage that we used to be called Harvard Risk Management, that was designed to recruit, train, and motivate sharks. And as we made the transition from Harvard Risk Management to Success Team, a lot of the culture and the philosophy remained. Now, maybe softened some, but it is a shark culture. And so the tools speak to the shark. The communications is best spoken to the shark. And that's just kind of how it is. Again, it's not right. It's not wrong. It's my favorite type of person. So I've had a hand in crafting and creating that culture because that's what works for me. But as we expand, I think here's one where I will ask you to put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you want a big team. You want sharks, but you want the other folks too that I'm about to describe to you. You want people from every walk of life, every personality type, every community across 2 nations participating as a career all day long, part-time, spare time, slices of time, stolen moments. You want people focused on CD. See, there's the ones. You're gonna have people focused on different areas of the business with different personalities, different drives, different motivations. That's what I want. And so we want the sharks, but we also want the dolphins. And the dolphins, this is different. So now we've got dolphins. What are their traits? They're social. They're fun-loving. They're expressive. And they bring energy to the room. They're great at building relationships. They're enthusiastic. They're the life of the party. They love socializing. They value relationships, excitement, creative ideas. So what happens is you get these strengths that they're great at building relationships. They're enthusiastic. They're good networkers. Like when we make suggestions that you should join BNI, the Chamber of Commerce, they're like, you don't even have to say that. I already did it. I did it before you even thought about it. You know, they're going to things. My friend in Arizona, Nancy Winters, is a perfect example of a dolphin. And she has built this massive organization around attracting other dolphins to her business. Now, how does she do that? She hosts and attends networking events. She attends them to meet people that are attending those other ones, and she hosts her own to attract people to that as well. And when I talk about having meetings, this appeals to the dolphin. When I say, hey, get everybody together at Panera Bread, the dolphins are like, I'll do it. And then there's other groups of people that are like, I don't, why would I do that? How does that work? What's the bottom line? Like the sharks would be like, what is the return on investment on that cup of coffee at Panera Bread on a Tuesday morning? So it's different personality types. And again, I'm gonna teach you how to talk to these folks as well. So what are the challenges? Well, dolphins are easily distracted. And they sometimes struggle with follow through. So they get excited about something, but then the next new idea comes before they complete the current one. So how do you communicate with these folks? Well, you keep it positive, energetic, engaging. Dolphins love hearing about possibilities, new ideas. So you keep the conversation light and exciting. You highlight the fun aspects of being a part of the Legal Shield community. Performance club trips, getting together, the convention. So the events, the opportunity to meet new people, this appeals to the dolphins. And I know some of you are saying nobody just fits in any one of these holes. That's true. I'm gonna share that with you, but I just want to give you these meta categories first. Then there's the whale. And the whale is loyal, patient, supportive, dependable. They're about harmony. They prioritize relationships. They're deeply empathetic. They're great listeners. They bring stability. They're the glue of any group. They're always making sure that everybody feels comfortable and included. They're great listeners, as I said. They create stability. They have a supportive nature, and their nature helps to build trust and long-term relationships. but they do struggle with decisions, or they make them slowly. They do avoid conflict because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. They want to keep everybody happy. So sometimes they will beat around the bush and not resolve a problem. Now, how do you communicate with them? Well, you show appreciation, you be gentle, you be supportive, you avoid aggression, you avoid confrontational language. Whales value connection over competition. When you're discussing our business model, you don't have to emphasize competitiveness. You emphasize the mission and the purpose of the company. You tell Harlan Stonecipher's story of how he started the company and his vision for what the United States and Canada could be once everybody has these services. So that's the whale, right? Mission driven. And then there's the urchin. Now, I don't know why they picked these things, but they're easy to remember, so I go with it. I believe that there was initially a book that I'm not crediting here today. Just this is something that I should have looked it up, but this is just something I know at this point, but I believe it comes from a book and a training. So the urchins are detail-oriented. They're analytical. They're precise. They're organized. I love having people like this in my team, but some of you know, if you've been in conversations with me, I've said all the time, I don't recruit engineers and architects. That's and I shouldn't say that, right? Because I want them in my team, and I think about all the folks that came from all of these, the urchin type people that are millionaire club members in our business. They're planners, they're perfectionists, they love details, processes, they love doing things by the book. They're great at ensuring quality and accuracy. They're great problem solvers. They're great at being organized. They bring structure to projects. They make sure things are done correctly and that all the details are accounted for. But they can get stuck in analysis paralysis. They delay decision making. And the reason I've always said this, and I wish it was more jokingly, but that I don't, tend to recruit architects and engineers, although I would love to, it's because I get frustrated with all the detail that they want ahead of time. I get frustrated when they want to look at everything, they want to turn over every stone and every rock. And so maybe you will too, or maybe you're that person and you get it and you connect with that. This is my point, is that you can certainly build a Legal Shield business where you just pick a type of person and then you sort and filter out all the other people. And you say, listen, what I'm saying here is not right. Like I want these people on my team, but I don't get excited when I talk to them on the phone. And that's me knowing me, and I want you to know you. And maybe you've said to yourself, there's certain people, I get them on the phone, and I just, it just doesn't feel like it's going my way. And I don't feel like I can talk to them. I don't feel like they're hearing me. I don't feel like that I don't feel like that I enjoy talking to this person. Well, now you can have a category for this, right? So they can be overly critical of themselves as well. They can get in their own head and start to talk themselves out of the very success that they want to have because of that analysis paralysis. So for these folks, you just got to be prepared, be organized, be logical in your communications. They also really appreciate clear expectations, specific details, and they like time and space to analyze information. So unlike a shark who's going to make a decision quickly, the urchin, when you talk to them about Legal Shield, they're probably going to want to see some detailed information, statistics, proof that other people are having success. So let them see the numbers and the structure behind the opportunity, because we have all of these resources. And just know when someone, I'm going to get into what do people say, but just know that when someone's asking for all these details, they're not a jerk, just an urchin. So and you can recruit them into your team too. All right. So those are the four kinds. Hopefully I haven't offended anybody today, probably. And I don't mean to, and I'm sorry. So how to ask questions to get this out, to figure out who these folks are, because obviously this is the goal, right? So to effectively connect with prospects, it's important to understand their personality type. And I'm going to show you, again, something many of you have seen before, but to get the conversation directed to get it going into a direction where you can identify who you're talking to. So these questions are designed to be natural and they're open-ended, and they lead the prospect to reveal their preferences and tendencies. And I'm going to tell you that if you've done a three-way call with me in the last 7 to 10 days, you've heard this. And maybe you're even saying to yourself, where did all that come from? Because you've been doing three-way calls with me before that. But then all of a sudden, it changed. It changed because I realized that I was missing this formative stuff. We call it form, by the way. I was missing this stuff, and I wasn't getting to know the prospects, and I wasn't communicating with them the way they need to be communicated with, because I wasn't asking them the questions that would reveal who they are. So we call this FORM, FORM, and it stands for family, occupation, recreation, and motivation. And so what it is it's a process during, now you might be doing this during a three-way call, like with a leader. You'll hear me do this. Hopefully you'll hear the other leaders do this as well as we move back towards this, doing what works. Sometimes things work so well we stop doing them. I don't know why. You know why? Because this takes more time. It takes a little bit more energy. Building a relationship is different than selling something quickly. It just is, but we're not in the selling something quickly business. If we were, the company would do this with Super Bowl ads. We're in the relationship business. Thus, you have to form relationships. And I didn't mean form like FORM, but I guess I did. So here's how form works. Number one, family. So you can ask, and I'm going to show you my Legal Shield script that will get a bunch of this going. But these are kind of the follow-ups. If you don't get the answer to family that you're looking for from my script, which I'm going to give you next, then you've got these slides as well, right? So you can say, hey, tell me about your family. How do they influence your decisions? You might say, how important is family support in your life? Because what you're listening for, the whales, for example, will talk about the importance of family and being there for their loved ones. Often that shows up in them being excited about the residual income component, the legacy income. Dolphins might share that whatever they do as activities, they went apple picking, they go to the beach, they love to surf, they all ride horses, whatever the thing is, they go hiking, whatever. But the dolphins will talk about the fun stuff that their family does. And the sharks will talk about how their family motivates them. They might say things like, I want my kid to go to this college. I want my daughter to have the wedding of her dreams. I want to be able to get cars for my kids when they turn 16. They're very motivated by their family motivates them. They want to do those things for their family. So you start to figure out who you're talking to based on the answers to these questions. So that's family. And you're going to experiment with this, because what we're doing is starting a conversation that leads to honest communication. So this is the beginning. This is revealing, peeling back for everybody here, that what we're trying to do is build human connections. Next, occupation. And for some of you, you say, well, my leads come from a source where I know what they do for a living, or I know what they did for a living, or I was supposed to have read it, so it's weird for me to ask. Just ask, what do you do for work? And sometimes people are not working right now. So what did you do most recently? What did you enjoy about it? You always want to position it as positive, by the way. Many of you have learned that from me. Not did you like working there, but what did you like most about working there? Are you looking for any growth opportunities in your career? The sharks will emphasize career growth, leadership, or challenges. Urchins, they'll focus on details of their job, precision, how they contributed. Dolphins will discuss the social aspects, the people they were hanging out with. And whales might highlight their supportive roles at work, like how they helped other people or the mission of the company. So again, as people are going to start tipping their hand to who they really are as you get them talking. This is why it's so important to ask questions instead of give a lecture, right? Because when we're recruiting people, most of these conversations are happening after they've seen a video. Sometimes not, but these conversations are instead of you and I doing a presentation. So whether you're doing form to invite them to watch a video, or you're doing form after, or it's a three-way call form, or it's a game plan interview form for a new associate, whatever it is, it's a conversation that's different than what does Legal Shield do? So here's recreation. What do you do for fun when you're not working? Do you prefer spending your free time with others or having some quiet time? Some of you will hear me say, what if finances were totally out of the way? What is your dream that you would do with your life? That is that kind of recreation, but it gets into motivation too. Sometimes it depends on which direction they take that. But this is where I hear about what people love. Well, they play the guitar, they love video games, they love to travel. See, dolphins will mention social and fun activities. Whales will prefer quiet, meaningful activities. Sharks, maybe it's a competitive hobby like a racing or sports. Urchins might discuss structure or detail-oriented recreation activities. So again, people are just they're sharing with you in their answer who they are, so you kind of know who you're talking to. And then the M in form is motivation. What motivates you to keep going each day? What are your big goals for the future? And again, what you listen for. Sharks will talk about ambitious goals and challenges. Dolphins will talk about enjoying life and finding ways to have more of those positive, fun experiences. Whales want to help others. I'm in a search committee for a new head of school at my daughter's school, and I've watched over the last 3 weeks as we've met with these candidates, how just asking these questions reveals to you exactly who that person is. And I asked this past Tuesday, I asked the candidate, if your finances were totally out of the way, what would you do? And she said, I would work in this education community, and I would never have to worry about fundraising again, because I would provide the fundraising for everything I want to do. See, she's motivated by helping others. And then urchins are motivated by achieving accuracy, mastering skills. Maybe they want to be better at something they're already interested in. So this is how you get to know who you're talking to. And remember, I said at the beginning that today is not a day where you're supposed to watch this slideshow, listen to some guy talk, and then be a master at this. I'm not a master at it. What we're mastering is putting this in the front of our awareness so that we can get better at it, build meaningful, long-lasting, deep bonds with people, because they know who we are, we know who they are, and we have things in common. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Every person that's ever quit this business, I had something in common with. I just never got there. Every person that ever quit this business and never took my phone call again, I could have formed a deeper relationship with. I just never got there. I am on a journey of getting better at this, and I just wanted to share with you what I'm learning so that I could hopefully help you be inspired to learn it too. So let's put it into practice. The key to using these questions is to keep the conversation natural and let the prospect share openly. And once you identify their personality type, you can adapt your communications to align with their preferences, right? If you know that you're talking to a whale, you don't have to talk about the bonuses. If you know you're talking to a whale and they're excited about what Harlan Stonecipher started and the idea that they could get to be a part of finishing it, you don't have to talk to them about the six-figure ring or a millionaires club. Not right now. There'll be time for that later. But if you're talking to a shark and they're revealing to you that they're money motivated, and you start focusing in on the way that our membership changes people's lives, you've distracted them away from the thing that motivates them to move forward. Can we win them over to the mission and the purpose of this company? Absolutely. We've done it again and again and again. Because that's what core commitment number one is: personal development, developing the person to be more than just this one archetype that they're presenting as. So you do want to identify their personality type, adapt your communications to align with their preferences. That will build trust, and it'll make your prospect feel understood, which is crucial for them making the decision to join your team. So I said I would share with you my favorite outline, and all of you probably have heard me say these words before. I always start, what did you like best about what you've learned so far? That's my way of finding out, first of all, did they watch the video that I asked them to watch? Number two, would they lie about it if they didn't watch it? Because and that's not number two, but the first reason is I want to see if they watched it. And in finding out if they watched it, because some people watch it, some people don't watch it, but some people that don't watch it lie and say they did. And so now that I've identified if this is the person that says things that are not true, because we're starting off with that thing. It's totally fine if somebody says, well, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I can handle that. But if they say they did, and I say, what did you like best about what you've learned so far? And they can't answer that question, or they beat around the bush because they know they just got cornered, then that's how I know what happened. So what do you like best about what you learned so far? The real reason for that, though, the most important reason, is because it's an open-ended question, and it gets to the heart of what motivates them. And it's the beginning of me listening. Who am I talking to? Am I talking to a shark? Am I talking to a dolphin? Am I talking to a whale? Am I talking to an urchin? And we've taught you this at a much flatter surface level, which is to say, if they're excited about what the product does, like they've been a victim of identity theft, then that's what you talk about. If they're excited about the money, then that's what you talk about. If they're excited about the residual income, the legacy money, then that's what you talk about, right? So you follow their interest. That's true, but this is why you follow their interest, so they can feel heard, because you're identifying what their personality type is. The next thing is, have you ever heard of our company before? And I like to know, did they have a membership in the past? Has there been, because what you'll hear revealed sometimes is that they were involved in the business in the past, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And then if you listen, you'll hear how they feel about that. They feel like they missed an opportunity then. They feel like they regret that, or they didn't understand it then. A lot of times I'll hear people say, I used to have a Legal Shield membership. I don't remember why I ever let it go. I really loved it. But it gets you to hear who you're talking to. And my favorite question, number 3, is, how do you see this fitting into your life? Because I want to see, do they want this to be their career? Do they want to make a 6-figure income? Shark. Do they want to contribute to society and then create another stream of income for their family now? Whale. Do they want to create residual income for the future? Also whale. Do they want to get good at something? Do they want to become an expert in sales or an expert in marketing? And they see this as a way to do that. Urchin. Do they just want to have a community? Maybe they felt isolated during this journey through COVID, and they see that there's an opportunity to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Dolphin. So you can see as these real questions that we really ask during these calls, and then you can go in and you can deeper dive in the slides that I already showed you, deeper dive into family, deeper dive into occupation, deeper dive into recreation and motivation. But also keep in mind that we are a blend of all types. Nobody is just one thing, okay? It's important to remember, there's no 100% shark or dolphin or whale or urchin. Well, all of us have a mix of these traits. And you may identify primarily as a shark, but you might also have some of the empathy of a whale or the enthusiasm of a dolphin. And the blend can change depending on the situation you're in, who you're talking to, or even how you're feeling that day. For example, you might take on the traits of a shark when setting big goals for your Legal Shield business, but when you're connecting with your team, your whale traits might come forward as you focus on supporting and encouraging others. You may be detailed urchin when planning, but a fun-loving dolphin when celebrating a win with your team. So understanding that everyone has a mix of these traits allows us to be more flexible, more adaptive. It's also what makes working with different people so enriching, I think. Each person brings a unique combination of qualities that contributes to the group's success. Okay? So this is, I think fundamentally we need to embrace that we're all different, we're all the same, and none of us are all anything all at once. All right. So trauma informed, I want to talk about, and this is what I'm going to wrap up with in the time we have together. Because in addition to understanding the 4 personality types, I think this is where, when I talk about evolving, when I said we're going to evolve with this coaching series, we're going to go way beyond what you normally get in a Legal Shield group setting. And this is that, because it's essential to consider the impact of past experiences, trauma on people's behaviors and responses. That's what trauma-informed is. A trauma-informed approach allows us to be mindful of how trauma may shape somebody's communication style and preferences. I just want to talk to you for a second, like real. If we're going to truly evolve, we have to begin to see the person, ourselves, and we have to see it in others for all of our potential. Not who we are when we get here, not who we are today, but for our potential. And we can't ignore our or anyone else's life experiences when we're looking at this. That's the approach that I believe is going to build the big legacy business, the big teams, the most impactful teams, is when we get so locked in on this. So for those of you that listen, I'm not a PhD in any of this, but I do have one in the house. So I just want to lay some of this out for you, more of, just a regular guy. But trauma informed means recognizing that everyone you interact with could have experienced trauma at some point in their lives. I'm going to show you this on shark, on dolphin, on whale, on urchin as we wrap up. And it can come from a wide range of experiences: abuse, neglect, loss, challenging life events. Trauma affects how people perceive the world, how they respond to stress, how they engage in relationships. So the goal of being trauma informed is to create an environment that fosters emotional safety, trust, and empowerment. And by understanding that behaviors may be influenced by past experiences, we can approach people with greater empathy and sensitivity. Well, let's talk about empathy real quick, and then I'll get back to the four personalities. As far as I'm concerned, the legacy of agents of change is empathy. And empathy is at the core of trauma-informed practices. It allows us to put ourselves in another person's shoes and consider what they might be experiencing internally. So when we lead with empathy, we create an environment where individuals feel heard, validated, and respected. This is crucial when working with different personality types, because each person's past, I'm going to show you this in a second, may affect how they react to situations. Trauma can influence how a person responds in various situations, including causing heightened reactions or to withdraw or be cautious. So we want to be aware of these possibilities. Then we can create a safer, more supportive environment for everyone we interact with. And there's extremes of this, right? I mean, here's one extreme. In a group setting, it used to be widely held common practice at a Legal Shield event to say, you know, we was in a convention of 10,000 people, stand up and say, rub the shoulders of your neighbor to your left. Now, I realized that there's nobody on this Zoom that's like, why on earth would anybody ever do that? It was just something we did. It felt fun. It felt dolphin-y. But through understanding trauma-informed approaches, we would never do that today. You would never say, turn to the stranger on your left and rub their shoulders, because who knows how that makes that person feel. We used to say, close your eyes. But now some people may want to say, well, you know, people need to toughen up. And while I respect that point of view, because I certainly grew up with that point of view, when you just go a little bit further into kindness, you realize that it might not be so trauma informed to suggest to people in a room full of strangers to close their eyes. So it's the little things, the compound effect of little moments of kindness and empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, that really is going to change the way you interact with all humans around you in a positive way. So let's talk about the shark. Let's get back to this so I don't run out of time. Okay. The shark's assertiveness that we talked about might stem from a need to feel in control, shaped by past experiences where they felt powerless instead. Approaching them with respect for their autonomy and providing clear options can help build trust. You can empathize with their drive for control by understanding that it may be a protective response, right? Doesn't mean they're a jerk. Just means that they're expressing as a shark for a variety of reasons. What about the dolphin? Maybe they use social interactions as a way to avoid deeper feelings or past hurts. Creating a safe space where they can open up about their thoughts without judgment can help build a stronger connection. So you empathize with their need for positivity and connection, recognizing that may be a way to shield themselves from difficult emotions. What about the whale? Whales may avoid conflict because of past experiences where disagreements led to negative outcomes. So providing reassurance, a calm, non-threatening environment can help them feel comfortable engaging in necessary discussions. You can show empathy by acknowledging their fear of conflict and emphasizing that their perspective is valued. Maybe the urchin. They may have developed their need for precision as a way to feel secure or in control. Providing them with clear guidelines and affirming their strengths can help them feel valued, help them reduce anxiety. You can empathize their need for order, that structure helps them to feel safe. So real quick, because I am out of time, key principles for us, for trauma-informed practices, and I'm going to teach you one last thing, which is how to train people knowing, not just how to recruit them, but how to develop them knowing these things we talked about today. So first, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just 4 keys of trauma-informed practices. Number 1, safety. Ensure that people you interact with feel both physically and emotionally safe. And this includes how you speak to them, your body language, the environment you create. Next, trustworthiness, transparency. Be open and honest in your communications. Trust is built when people know what to expect and feel they're being treated with integrity. Also, empowerment. voice, and choice. Empower individuals in your team by offering them choices and respect their autonomy. Allow them to feel in control of the decisions they're making. I think about, I'll just ground it in something from our world just to break it up so I don't lose you. Like Fast Start. Fast Start is really important to us. And Fast Start is really important to some people. But sometimes it's so important to us because of what it represents to us: bragging rights, a bonus, additional points for a trip. Sometimes it's so important to us that we remove the choice inadvertently, unintentionally. It feels like the choice has been removed for the individual. But what if we gave them the choice? What if we asked them, is this something you want to go for? Because I'll support you. Or is this not that important to you? And I'll support you there too. Let them make a choice. That's just one of the many examples. Empathy and understanding. Lead with empathy. Understand that people's reactions may be shaped by past traumas, and approach each person with compassion. I promise you this, I've learned in working with thousands of associates that did stay, thankfully, that none of them are just like anybody else. Every person is an individual, some similarities, some differences. No two are alike. And I've found that it's a terrible mistake in business and in life to approach one person the same way you approach another because it worked with that person. The motivation style that worked with that person, the training style that worked with that person, the recruiting style and language that worked to get that person to join doesn't necessarily mean that it works on the next one. By incorporating trauma-informed practices, we can enhance our ability to connect meaningfully with each personality type, which will create stronger and more authentic relationships. Relationships that will lead to people sticking around until they figure it out, sticking around until they get what they want out of this opportunity. So now I'm going to just wrap up with training. When working with our associates, it's important to apply trauma-informed principles. This helps to ensure that everyone feels safe, understood, empowered, and in control. And here's some key practices, okay? So you've seen this before, but let's talk about it in the context of what we've been training on today. Choose the right mode of communication. This is where I get back to just being Jim Tanner, probably too much shark. But I'm telling you right now, this is the number one easiest thing to do right, and so many of us do it wrong. Call instead of text. Call instead of text. When somebody texts you that they have a question, call them up. When somebody texts you and that they're struggling or they don't know what to do or they don't know where to click, call them up. Text messages can often be misinterpreted because they lack tone, context, nonverbal cues. See, if I text that person back, all of their personality type, all of their potential trauma, all of their life experiences go into the way they read the message I sent, which is different than all of the life choices, personal development, what I typed out and hit send on. It came from me with one set of energy. It's received with a different one because it's not authentic communication. It just isn't. You know what text messages is great for? Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I need to talk. That's what it's great for. Do that. Send a picture of a pony or a dog or a kid. Great. But a phone call allows you to use a warm tone of voice, listen actively, and make the adjustment based on the other person's responses. I don't know what their struggle is. I don't know how far worked up they are. I don't know if they're about to quit because of this question they can't get answered, or it's just something they were wondering about. And I'll never know that from a text message. So it helps you pick up the cues on how the person's feeling so you can provide the right kind of support. Number 2, ask questions instead of lecturing. Engage through questions. Instead of telling them what to do, ask questions that guide them to discover the answers for themselves. So when somebody says, what video should I send them? I say, well, what video do you like best? Let's start there. Which one do you love? Well, I love the Melissa Peters video. I think that's great. Do you think they would like it too? So I'm just asking questions. I think they would. I don't know, but I think so. I like it. So yeah, I think so too. See, this empowers them, gives them ownership over their learning. What do you think? What do you think would be the best way? What do you think would be the best way to approach it? It gives them autonomy. All right, so ask questions instead of lecturing. I am very good at lecturing. I'm lecturing you all here today. This is not the most impactful way to build a relationship. me just shouting into my computer and hoping you're paying attention. But it is one of the ways that we train. But it's not as good as a one-on-one conversation and asking questions. Next, validate their experiences. Acknowledge their feelings. When someone shares a challenge or difficult, tough, I can understand why you'd feel that way, can go a long way in making someone feel heard and valued. Now, very often, and we don't mean to in our business, instead of validating somebody's experiences, we one-up them with something terrible that we've experienced and overcome. Sometimes instead of validating somebody's experiences, we tell a story about someone who's had success that had those experiences in the past. But it doesn't make somebody feel heard and valued when you try to overcome it like an objection instead of just listening. Next, provide clear expectations and options. If you can reduce the uncertainty, many of you that have been working with me for years, you know that I say one of the most attractive things about leaders in this business is our certainty. So you want to reduce uncertainty because trauma often makes people more sensitive to uncertainty. So it's okay. Let me just ground this in a lesson. It's okay when you're working with your new person. See, one of the problems we have is that we don't want to work with our new associates when we're new because we don't know what to do. But everybody on here, if you've ever worried that you don't know what to do, you do have an I know what to do emergency button. You do know what to do because you know how to get a hold of everybody else that knows what to do. Like you have my phone number, you have all the leaders' phone numbers. You can get a hold of the people that know what to do, which means that you do know what to do. That's your certainty. When you're working with your new associates, they're uncertain and their trauma may make them sensitive to uncertainty. So I need you to be certain, not certain that you know the answer, but for you to be certain that you know who does know the answer. So again, when providing training or instructions, be clear about what's expected, offer options whenever possible, so that we can let that new associate or the prospect or anybody in your team feel like they're in control and reduce their anxiety. Next, and I promise I'm almost done. Create a collaborative environment. Partner with people, don't dictate to them. This shows up in our language too. It's really hard to do what I'm about to say, but it's really important you do it. And here it is. It's a correction. If you're using the language, my team member, if you're using the language, they're in my team, this person's in my team, they're in my downline. If you're using that language, you are not in a collaborative environment. I know you're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. And it may never even on the surface, it may never be picked up, but it shows up in the energy. But instead of saying in my team, you can say we're teammates. Instead of saying this person's in my team, you can say we're partners. Because then you're positioning yourself as a partner rather than an authority figure. So that then does show up in other language as you see on the screen. Let's do this together. How can I best support you? What do you need from me? What can I do to make this easier for you? Again, asking questions and being supportive, because this type of collaboration builds trust and reduces feelings of pressure. Be mindful of nonverbal communication. Use body language and tone to convey safety, whether you're in a space with somebody personally or on a video call. Use open body language and a calm, reassuring tone. Nonverbal cues can significantly impact how someone feels during a conversation, especially if they have a history of trauma. So be chill, relax, and if you're, by the way, this is a great place if you want to go down a rabbit hole. Things like nonverbal communication, you can do a Google search on this and you'll find lots of best practices for all of these, really, for collaboration, for providing clear expectation. I'm just starting you down the thinking, giving people time and space for reflection. We call this processing. See, trauma can make it harder for people to process information quickly. And after sharing new ideas or giving feedback, you have to allow space for the person to process what they've heard. You can say, Take some time to think about it, and we can discuss it further when you're ready. In other words, people don't always enjoy being closed or cornered. Now, sharks like to be closed because they respect it. But that's not what everybody likes. And trauma informed, and many of you know, this doesn't have to be about me, but many of you know, I was in a violent crime. I was in a robbery, an armed robbery, and so this is one of the many ways that trauma is expressed in my life. Is I can't make decisions quickly. I can make thoughtful decisions, and I can over time, but not only can I not make them quickly, which frustrates other people, sharks typically. But I also, because I can't make them quickly, I don't respect the people that try to force me to do so. Now, we don't ever want anybody to, we don't want to lose their respect because they feel forced or coerced into a decision. Most people will make the right decision, but they'll make them in different periods of time. Avoid assumptions, recognizing individual differences. See, every person's response to training or feedback will be different. So some of you today, you're like, this is the most boring training I've ever been to. I am not looking at the chat, but some of you probably, you wouldn't put that because you're kind, but some of you have just mentally checked out or just left. And other people are like, this is great. But there's differences. Every person responds to training differently. I'm going to do a training another time, and it's going to be all, it's going to seem like a ministry. And some people like that and some people don't. But we can recognize and respect those individual differences. Avoid assuming that everyone will react the same way or that they have the same motivations. Instead, take the time to understand each individual's unique perspective. All right, the last one on this, because I'm out of time, use empowering language. I think we're really good at this. Even if you're not good at it when you get here, we're so good at it in the leadership team that you just pick up on this behavior pretty quickly. You highlight strengths. Use language that focuses on the individual's strengths and capabilities. Trauma can diminish someone's belief in themselves. So reinforcing their strengths helps rebuild confidence. Saying things like, I've seen how determined you are. I know you can handle this. Those things, while maybe they seem small and unnecessary to us, can be completely empowering and transformative to the person you're working with. And I'll just say this as we close up. I believe we're building an army of empathic warriors. So as we wrap this up, let's reflect on why we're doing all this. The goal isn't just to understand personalities or even to build effective teams. It's to create a movement of empathic warriors within Legal Shield. By understanding the different personality types and incorporating trauma-informed practices, we have the power to build a community where everyone feels valued, heard, and supported. Imagine what it means to be one of us, to be an agent of change. Someone who leads with understanding, communicates with compassion, makes space for all people to join our mission. Sometimes it's hard to get this, but as Legal Shield Associates, we're not just offering a service, we're inviting people into a supportive environment where they can thrive, personally and professionally. And when we connect with others from a place of empathy, we give them opportunity to flourish. We can build stronger teams, deeper relationships, and a more inclusive community. So let's take the knowledge we gained today. Hopefully it was helpful to you, but let's just use it to empower others, because together we can grow an army of leaders who embody empathy, who fight for justice, and who make sure no one is left behind. So as we wrap up, remember, you're not just a representative of a company. You didn't just start a home-based business. You're an agent of change. You have the power to make an impact in people's lives, to create meaningful connections, and to help others flourish alongside of you on this incredible journey. So let's go out there and build something meaningful and long-lasting. Thanks everybody for staying. It is just incredible that we get to do this together. What you do matters, and it's important, noble work. And I'm grateful that I get to be a part of it with you. Zoom's over, ladies and gentlemen, but the work has just begun. Good day, everybody.